Hi everyone, it's Liesl. I've been promising a video on how I do my Rooibos or red tea or bush tea, depending on where you live. It may be called any of those or even a different name. How I do my Rooibos tea dyeing, beg your pardon. And I don't know, I think because I sometimes feel I have so much to say about it, I've been putting off making the video, but I have now backed myself into a corner with a promise, so here goes. I think this first video will just be about how I oven dry my paper, because I usually air dry, but the effect when air dried is very different to when the paper is oven dried. So it definitely bears some showing. So I thought I would just quickly take you through it. I just use any brand, but this is usually the one that I get. It comes in packs of 8, and this is what they look like, just tagless tea bags. Rooibos, as I'll call it in my video, is a bush which is native to South Africa. It grows in the Cederberg, and it's not related to Ceylon tea at all. And it's very popular, and it has grown very popular overseas, all over the world really, because of the fact that it contains no caffeine and has very little tannin. So it's really healthy, and here we often even give it, there's Rooibos for babies. If it's really hot, we make up a brew and babies have it cold or with milk. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use normal coffee paper and show you how I treat it when I this is such an interesting page that I've got up here for you. Well, how I treat it. So let me just put that aside. I'll talk about it in a seckie. What I've got here is a baking tray which I filled with boiling water. Boiling water definitely pulls the color from the tea far better than tepid or cold water. So please, if you're going to try this, use boiling water. Definitely works better. And I usually use about a bag per 100 mils, and it gives quite a nice dark, you can see there, quite a nice dark color. And I will just press these down a little bit more. I haven't made a lot because I'm not going to make a huge batch today. And I'll just push them to the side and see whether I can do my tea dyeing with them in the corner there. Then secondly, most of the paper that I tea dye, well, I tea dye anything really, whatever. If it's paper and it can stand up to being wet, I stick it in Rooibos. I have a laser printer, so I usually just dunk it. I print first and then just dunk it into the tea. And what I do is I have 2 baking trays that look like this. They're just normal cookie sheets really. And I have 2 methods. I either put baking paper down, or I heat the tray in the oven and then put the paper onto it. So what I do, and I've got some washi here because I'm trying to stay in frame. What I do is I don't soak my paper. I literally just dunk it, and you can see me doing it here in the corner. I just dunk it, make sure that it's totally covered with tea, and then carefully lift it out, drain as much as possible, and then just plonk it down. Now what I do is I don't dry my sheets individually. I usually make little piles of 5 sheets of paper to a tray. And I used to try with soaking the paper, and I just found that really it made the paper quite flimsy. I had more tears than I really wanted, and I didn't find that there was a significant difference to the look that I got. Now, some of you who might try this and soak your paper might find that you have a different result. Please feel free to experiment. I'm sure that my method isn't the only one that works. As you can see, it's really quick, and it just goes in like this. I try to remove as much of the liquid as I can, but it's not an exact science. And I just overlay them so that little bits of the paper still shows from the previous layers. And then the 5th one, I just put over the other 4, sort of diagonally. And then and I've got enough liquid off. I'll just plug it down, and I just do this because I want some random patterning, and you'll see what I talk about. Oops, I don't want that there. Like that. And then I'm just going to see if there's a bit more. No, there isn't much liquid that wants to come off. There are a few drops. Okay, so I'm sorry, terribly boring imagery that you're getting here. But this now, which you can see, is going to go into the oven, and that is where the magic is going to happen. So let me just pop that in there. And then, what I've got here is a sheet which has been in the oven and is really hot. And I'm not going to put any baking paper on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my paper, and you can hear how hot it is. I'm going to put my paper straight down on it. And what happens, oh, you're fogging up. I hope it's not too bad. What happens is the steam underneath makes little patterns on the bottom sheets. That's the only reason really why I do it, and hopefully you're not fogging up too badly there. It doesn't really make a difference to the upper layer of the paper, but it gives me some interesting patterning when it, there we go, and you can see it's now cooled down quite a bit. Granite tops don't help, they absorb a lot of the heat, so it's only really the first paper or two. So it's just for a few sheets in a batch that you really get that effect, but I like it, and if I'm lazy and don't have baking paper or anything like that, then I'll just do it this way, and that's actually how I found the result in the first place. So there we go, another 5 sheets done, and I think this one looks a little bit wetty. You can see it's cooled down so much that I can actually now touch it with my hand, and there goes. This will go into the oven. And really, as you all know, this is a messy business, but the result is so lovely. Let me just get rid of the worst. But you can see there's a lot of colour in that tea. I'm not sure that you can see actually, because it's such a great difference in colour. But I think I'm going to stop here. What I do want to say is that when the top page or pages or sheets of paper are dry, and here you can see I've got the oven at about 160, so not a very hot oven, but look at that. That is the effect that you get from tea dyeing with Rooibos paper, and I will do a little video. Well, I'm going to stop here and continue the video when these are all done. But that's all I do, turn it over and pop it back in the oven. And the bottom layer never gets the same beautiful dark color that the top one does, but it helps to dry it. And then what I do, because the paper gets really wrinkly when it bakes like this, is I put it under some heavy books. Okay, so everything is dry. My oven is off. Please always watch your oven so that you don't start burning paper and burn your house down. This is a pile that I put under some heavy books, and you can see I only put them under there for about 10 minutes. So they're not too flat, but they're much better than this pile, which is the same number of pages but has not been pressed yet. So I do find that putting them under some heavy books directly after getting them out of the oven does help to flatten the pages out, but I don't want them flat as pancakes. Otherwise I would have bought pre-colored paper if I really wanted to go that route. I want something that's a bit more organic. Now here, we're going to use this one. You can see the wonderful spotted effect that you get from the air bubbles when you put the paper down directly onto a hot sheet. So this was the result from not using baking paper under the paper that I was tea dyeing. And this is the other, which is plainer and more evenly colored. But what you will see is that where the paper overlapped, it gives you these varying colors of the tea. And I love Rooibos because it gives a wonderful warm hue to the paper. It's not too brown. It's definitely more on the red side. That's why it's called Rooibos, which really means red bush. And it also is completely unpredictable in the result that you're going to get. This is one of the top sheets, and you can see that the whole sheet is a lot darker and has some really interesting patterning on it. This one has the line where the paper overlapped. And Nick the Booksmith does wonderful Franken pages, which I just adore and I think is so clever. And I was thinking that if you did a Frankenstein style book, you could quite possibly use sheets where you have these lines and put some stitching on them as though the book has been stitched together. And I want to show you, here is a little sewing themed book that I did, and where I had some color difference from sheets that had lain over each other, I used a little hook and eye stamp as though the sheets had been pulled together like that. Here is another one. Just quickly show you there, the same effect, which I really like, and it was just a nice way to use a little stamp which I really would otherwise not know what to do with. So yeah, possibly a Frankenstein themed book, Mary Shelley or something like that. But this is how I do the baking. There's really nothing particularly clever about it. All I can say is give it a try and have some fun. It really is marvelous, all the different results that you can get. And then I will be doing a second video in which I show you how I do my air drying, which really is a lot of fun. So as always, thanks for watching, and until we speak again, bye bye.